Sorry, JK, you got to edit this out.
Keep it in.
Perhaps the biggest winner of the NBA Draft Combine, Cedric Coward, is heading to Memphis at pick number 11. Coward profiles as the 3 and D wing archetype, all the rage in the NBA for the past decade or so. Huge riser because of his athletic testing, because of how he measured. The only knock on him is a pretty significant one. He played just 6 games this past season at Washington State. Before that was at Eastern Washington. On one hand, you love the developmental curve that he has been on. At the same time, there's just not a ton of tape to go off of to, dare I say, justify taking him in the lottery. At least I probably wouldn't. But Dion, where are you at with said?
Um, Excuse me. It's eating a burrito. We're back though. Um, I'm not crazy high on said. I think there's a lot that still needs to be seen. I think he would have done a lot of justice by going to Duke.
Hmm.
However, however, if you're gonna go 11, you go.
Yeah.
So I think he made the right choice. I don't hate the pick. Who else would they have taken on the wing at this point in the draft, right? Like, so I don't hate it. I don't know that there's a better alternative out there. Do I think it's the end all be all? The answer, no. I also don't think they gave up that much.
Hmm.
Um, so they gave up 16, 2 seconds, which I don't care about those. We can purchase those later on if we really want seconds. Those go for cash. And they gave up a future first, which I think Memphis, as long as you have Ja and you're committed to Jaren as your franchise cornerstones, you're going to be good enough to where that future first probably isn't very good. We don't have the details on the first yet. If it winds up being a first from Orlando or something, I apologize, but I feel the same way about Orlando. I feel the same way about a lot of the picks Memphis has. Like, I don't think Memphis has picks you're concerned about ending in the top 10 if they convey. So I think you trade two firsts to move up 5 spots and get your guy. I have no issue with that.
Hmm. Yeah, I see that as well. I'm most curious to see like what is Memphis trying to do right now? Are they gonna be sellers? Like, does the Bane trade signify anything else, or are they still trying to build on that John Jaren Jackson foundation? I don't know. I still struggle a little bit to see why they traded Bane. Um, if they wanted to keep building, if it was just getting off of the contract, I get he was getting a ton of money. And maybe the vision is that Coward can be something close to that when you factor in he has that same physical build and the shooting numbers are quite nice. I think he has all the flashes in terms of playmaking too that you would love to see and better size than Bane. But yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit confused as to what exactly Memphis's direction is right now.
I think they're trying to win, but they're trying to win in a different way than they did before. They were very cap wise, they were very hung up, right? They had Bane, Jaren, Ja making up essentially all of the salary cap, nearly putting them in the first apron.
Hmm.
Edie had a very successful rookie year. I had my questions on Edie. We kind of saw them play out not only in the first round of the playoffs, but I felt like Steph was like, "Yo, come here." That whole playoff playing game. So I do have my question marks on Edie when it comes to a playoff performer. But what you can't question about Edie is how he played this year. You're gonna have to pay him if you want to keep him, right? Like he proved that. He proved that he's gonna be a good player for years to come. Jalen Wells, same thing. I have my question marks on Jalen Wells. If you want to keep Jalen Wells, you're going to have to pay him, though. So I think Memphis just had a lot of guys you have to pay. If Cedric Coward can be some version of Desmond Bain, you can pass the buck on that a little bit and move that payday back a little bit. Keep yourself out of the first and second apron moving forward, while you also like are still decent. I don't know. I wanted to say competing. I don't view them as competing though.
Yeah, no, I actually think that's really good rationale when you put it that way. It makes it a ton more sense and contextualizes it just with what their financial situation, what their cap space is going to look like. And I do love some of these young players. I get what you're saying with the question marks, but this is a good organization that has thrived with Cedric Coward like players that has kind of found guys who got it out of the mud. Like Cedric Coward has this great story who wasn't supposed to be here. Like him being a lottery pick even a year ago before the 6 game sample size would have been insane. Still feels that way a little bit, but I definitely see the thought process behind it when you contextualize it that way of trying to get guys who can contribute pretty immediately, let's say, on a reasonable deal so that you're able to be on this timeline where you can figure out who you want to pay going forward and keeping your two franchise cornerstones. Let's talk a little bit more about Ced, the player. What do you think he can bring to this Grizzlies team and maybe even some reasonable expectations for him as a rookie?
Um, Defense and three-point shooting.
Hmm.
That's essentially what you're admitting if you're a Grizzlies fan, coach, player, whatever. Bane was a phenomenal player. I think Bane's an all-star, but that's not necessarily what you need. You need a 3-and-D guy. And Bane could play into that role, but Bane's a little bit bigger than that role. He gets to go to Orlando, do his thing. You
Right.
bring in Cedric Coward. You're hoping he can just fit into what you needed out of Bane, maybe not some of the extra stuff Bane can provide.
Hmm.
Um, big question mark, in my opinion, on how that's going to wind up looking. But the story will write itself. But I think he can provide what you needed out of Desmond Bain.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's well said. Again, Coward in the vacuum is not a player that either of us, or I would say, are especially high on, but we see the rationale here with Memphis and could work out for them.